All right, so shalom bracha, shalom bracha. Welcome to my first shiur. I'm also going to be recording, so I also have people here, so I'm going to be back and forth with my eyes trying to communicate with everybody. So I want to thank everybody for coming. We are today in Chavtet Nisan, the 29th of Nisan, so we're mamash Erev Rosh Chodesh, which is a very powerful time, yeah. So it's P'arshat Kdossim, and so we're going to be diving into the Parsha and tapping in a little bit into the Torah. And in general, every week we're going to go through the Parsha. I'll put it this way. Hashem is the big boss, and this universe is like one huge company. Right? In the company, there's many companies, and then there's the CEO, and the guy who works in this department is there. And the Torah is here for us to learn how to communicate and live in this world properly. So the parasha of the Shavua isn't just yet another story, and we read it every year over and over. It's also a way where it's like our CEO, we're like, this week coming up to theaters near you, The Spies. And you check, who is the spy in my life? Who is this? Am I being a spy? Who's this person in my life, inside and out, and then globally? So we use the Parashat Shavua as a way to delegate this coming week's events. So usually we read the next week's Parsha at Mincha, meaning we read Parashat Kdossim in Mincha. To show you, like, coming up to theaters next week, like if everything was a season, and it's like the Holy Flicks versus the Netflix, and that's what we're using the parasha for. It's like our CEO to delegate. And then we have the prophets, which is the Torah. And what's interesting about that is that the Chumash, the first 5 books were written by Moshe, which is obvious, Torah Hashem, Tamima, Torah Moshe, Emet. And it's stories that our nation went through before it was a nation, the history of how this whole planet began, and the story of Israel and how it became a nation. And literally Hashem saw Moshe Rabbeinu face to face, told him what to write, and he wrote it down. The books of the prophets are not like that. It's personal stories of some guy or a lady, and it's their personal experience, how they journeyed it, how they saw it, what their prophecy was in their way. So we're reading it as a story a couple hundred years later, skimming through it and not understanding that they were real people too, and they went through real things, and they're talking about things that are going on at the time, which is then, but they're telling us now what's going to go down. So basically, every week when we read the Parashat Shavua, we are kind of like, so we have a small review of last week's episode. We had the two sons of Aaron that went to Shemaim. Yeah, Nadav Aviyahu. And the weeks before that, we were talking a lot about the Bet HaMikdash and how to build it and the significance of that. And so when we look outside of ourselves and how we can connect it, it's really interesting because the Torah starts becoming alive. You start seeing yourselves in the story, and that's another concept that today's shiur really is going to be a little bit more general, and I'll constantly probably be repeating this concept where when we read the story of Yosef and he was thrown into the pit, obviously Yosef is a real person, and he had brothers, and they had a fight, and there was a pit, and he got thrown, and there was the whole going down to Egypt. So when we read these stories, like, how could it be that after so many times that Paro got hit by Hashem, he couldn't just let the people go? And then when he finally let go, it says, and Hashem iksha et lev Paro, and Hashem basically made his heart hard as a stone. And then he kind of wakes up, and Paro is like, wow, How did I let them go? He doesn't even realize Hashem put him on a pause during the movie theater. Like during the scene, like, Paro, yeah, wait, just pause. Like that. And then he actually thinks it's him. So we're always in situations and we always have stories like that. So I always tell people, like, try to see yourself as Yosef and you were thrown in the pit. I'm sure someone in your life, whether it be a sibling, which is very normal to have, sibling fighting, or a friend or a cousin that took your dreams and threw you in the pit, just like Yosef. And that's in the pit, that's when we usually learn to dream, because we see that that's where you learn to dream. And learned how to manifest and learned how to communicate. And that in jail, that's where he started making business deals. I mean, ironically today, what the joke is that the Jews, when they go to jail, they become richer because that's where they make the best deals. We have to have humor. We have to have humor when we learn Torah, because Rabbi Nachman says you have to have humor. We also have to understand, we know that the Torah has 70 faces to it, and we have to remember that, because the 70 faces, the 70 ways to see the Torah happened after Hashem gave us the Torah the first time, when we kind of all fainted, we were overwhelmed. And then when we got up, all of a sudden there were 70 faces, so everyone kind of get their experience of it. I'm not putting it down, I'm just saying, remember, there was something before all that. And so I like to use the parasha and the stories of the tzaddikim or the prophets, or whether it's coming up with Ruth and everything. How is that in my life? How am I in a Mitzrayim situation now? Who's the Paro in my life right now? And we each have inside of us a spark that connects to a story more than someone else. If I went around the room now and said, who's your Tanakh crush? If you had to meet one person in Tanakh now, who would it be? Some people it's David HaMelech, some people it's the Shlomo HaMelech, some people it's Eliyahu HaNavi. We all have something that we're naturally drawn to, and that means that we probably have a correction to do there, which is an amazing thing, that we have the opportunity to be here. And although everything seems outside to be scary and unsuring, it is the most exciting time to ever live in. Be'emet. I know we're at war, but sometimes I walk around the street and my guys, at least we're at war by style. To me, war is no electricity, no butter, no milk, no eggs, And we've had times in Israel where we're not at war and we have no butter, and everyone's there's no butter. And father's everyone's freezing the butter for the no eggs. We've had parents, we had no eggs, and it's the funnies. It's not funny. It's okay, so we're at war, Baruch Hashem. But I'm saying Baruch Hashem because not only we have everything, all of a sudden we have barbecues for the soldiers, and they deserve every single piece of that piece of meat so they can have that protein in the blood to go and fight. And the music, and they got the socks and the headphones and the telephone, and we have extra. All of a sudden everybody's sending us extra donations, and it's so beautiful to see. Guys, we're by style. At least we're not So we have to really remember that. And we have to remember another thing. This is one of those concepts that I'm jumping around, because when we're learning the parasha, it doesn't matter what parsha it is. A lot of times, or at least growing up, we always hear to be religious, to be spiritual. And that's Parashat Kdoshim. Kadoshim means to be holy. And I'll just start with quoting already, since we're in there. וידבר השם אל משה לאמור, דבר אל כל עדת בני ישראל ואמרת אליהם, קדושים תהיו, כי קדוש אני השם אלוהיכם. He's saying, be holy. Now, we all have a version of what holy is. We all, most of us grew up in, let's say, the yeshiva world, and you get the cartoons when you're younger, and the tzaddik is always with the payas, and the mama is always with the stroller and the perfect, mitpachad, and, nothing's ever showing. So we all kind of have an image what a tzaddik is, and I think we think a tzaddik is a righteous guy who learns Torah all day, and a woman who prays all day and never gets angry and wears the perfect stockings and is the perfect mom and have the no. That's not a tzaddik. A tzaddik is bigger than that. We all have a b'china of a tzaddik or a tzaddikah, tzaddikonet, tzaddikonim. We're all little tzaddikonim. We are. And we grew up thinking, oh, we're the lowest generation, materialistic, we're spoiled, we need this, we need this. First of all, if Hashem gave us all these things, that means we need it.
Amen.
If today we have technology to this level, that means Hashem is saying now is the time for them to have technology. Use it to the right way, but use it. It's like when cars first came out, we didn't have seatbelts. After a few accidents, like, oh, seatbelts. And it's like babies used to be in the front and like, oh, no, we need now like car seats. Oh, no, car seats cannot be in the front because as you say, like, like we're learning as we're growing. We're all here for the first time, learning, relearning, and really megalim. Legalot is to reveal. The Balatanya says the whole purpose of this trip, of this matzav that we're in, is to just legalot, to reveal everything we already know. So some of us are naturally intuitive, and there's things that we naturally already know, and that's probably because you've mastered it in your other lifetime. And yes, welcome. We've all been here a couple of times. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, at least. And then there's something we have to correct. It doesn't mean necessarily that you were the most evil, or it could be that you were the most evil. And that's one of the things that I also want to teach, that with success in general, whether it be in business or whether it be in learning or motherhood, we always want to be the greatest. But in order to be the greatest, we have to also agree to be not the greatest. A tzaddik says, when he wakes up and gets up to be a tzaddik, Rabbi Nachman says he would fall 70 times a day. I'm like, how can Rabbi Nachman fall 70 times a day? Like, what could he do already? Like, and the more closer you get to Hashem, the more closer you get to yourself and work, it gets thinner. So you get judged on the thinnest things. And falling is not necessarily a bad thing. So if you want to succeed, you have to agree to fail. If you want to be the best doctor, you're going to have to agree to kill someone on that table. By accident, because that's how you learn humility, but really it's from Hashem. Hashem is like, okay, this guy has to die. This guy has to get his medical degree. He's going to be the best brain doctor in the world, but he needs to kill someone to learn humility. And, that's how it is. That's how I watched on the yard. That's how it goes. And it's all in Hashem's hands, but he gives us the opportunity to be part of this world and to be godly and to rediscover. And so if that means that we're godly, in the Shenem of the Balatanya, in the same place that he says, legalot et atzmenu, to rediscover ourselves, he said, we made Hashem so big that he's so godly. He's in heaven and he's perfect. He doesn't have a goof. He doesn't have a body. He doesn't have an image. He doesn't have a hand. And then there's us on earth, this low thing that they called us, with desires and needs. But I'm a daughter of Hashem. So it must mean that I have a spark of Hashem in me. And therefore, if I have a spark of Hashem and Hashem is there and I'm here, then 1% of him is in me, and he's 99% now, because now 1% is in him, of me and him. So there's a little bit of human name in him and a little bit. So that's also a little bit like, okay, and now what do we do? But Hashem is Hashem. And what does that make me? So we have to understand that everything that we've learned till now doesn't necessarily mean it's not true. Obviously it's true, because in the end, everything that we went through is emet. If we have a fruit, let's say here we have a limon, it's not a real one, a pomegranate. We have the klipa, we have the outside layer, the peel. And we always say, like when we're learning, especially Chasiduto, the klipot, the person's klipot, and we think it's not a good thing. And it's not true. The peel is protecting the fruit till it gets ripe to be picked out of the tree and then ripe and then eaten. So in a sense, the klipa is the best thing that happened to the fruit because it helped make it grow. So the same thing with challenges in our life, just like Paro. So if we know Hashem paused his heart and said, Paro, like, you're not in the story right now, and I can play around, and we can understand it, like, when things happen to us, they're not always necessarily about us always, if we step outside of it emotionally and say, oh, okay, Hashem did that for whatever reason. It's not that person who did it necessarily to me. It's Hashem is doing something for me. That does not excuse if a person hurt you, abused you, spoke not nicely to you. It does not excuse you don't have to continue being in a relationship with the person. But if you remove yourself from the story and say, okay, beseder, that didn't work, but that helped me grow to where I am today and be where I am today, then that really was not a bad thing. It was hurtful at the time, and that's okay, because that's part of human nature. And that's being kadosh, that's being a tzaddik, that's being one with yourself, one with our body and our neshama are aligned, and we understand that we're not the lowest generation. We're actually, it's the opposite. Because if the woman has twins, so the twins are conceived, so there's the first baby that's conceived, and then there's the second baby that's conceived. And then the mother gives birth, and there's the bechor, and then there's the second. So the first baby that comes out, the bechor, really was conceived second. The second baby that comes out is really the first baby that was conceived. So really he's the bechor. And that's really the secret between Yaakov and Esav, because Esav came out first, so really he was conceived second. Yaakov came out second, so really he's the bechor. That's something else. Why am I saying this? Because as above, so below. That's another one, one of those things I should have like signs up here, like as above, so below, upside down world. Over here right now, it's nighttime. In Shemaim, it's daytime and opposite. So if it's as above, so below, and it's an upside down world, then if we're the last generation before the coming of Mashiach, which is all a birth process, so we're not the last, we're not the second baby to come out, we're the Rishon, we're the first baby. We were conceived first. We're just showing up on the last scene before the season finale of the coming of Mashiach, which in itself is going to be a whole other season and story. And so if we start thinking, okay, so what does that mean? That means we're always looking up, oh, the tzaddikim, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Meir, Sari, they're all like, we think they were perfect. No, they weren't. They were human. They made mistakes. They were jealous. There was rivalry. From the first two brothers, we already had a fight. One murdered each other for jealousy. Can't wait to get to that story, because there's a lot of secrets in there that it's not so simple. There's a little bit bullying before someone got murdered. And then we have Noah, who's the first alcoholic. We always have the first. Dinah was the first rape. There's situations that are always the first time, and we discuss it in the Torah to show the significance for later on in the future. And to go back to what I was saying before that is that I forgot. For a second, no, I was with the Bechor. Right. Oh, yes. So the tzaddikim say that they were shown at the end of times. I'm talking like Rabbi Shimon, V'kol HaGdolim, and they said, "Oh my gosh, we don't want to go there. It's way too it's way too whatever the word they used. Like I was gonna say, it's too low." And somehow we're here. And Rabbi Shimon said, it's that last generation. They're the highest ones of all. They're going to do what we can't. Basically, we're finishing up the work they couldn't. How do we know they didn't finish up the work? Because Mashiach didn't come. Yeah. They each had a certain work to bring to the world, do, and leave. Moshe Rabbeinu brought down the Chumshei Torah. That's level one. Many, 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 many years later, Rabbi Shimon brings us down the Zohar Kadosh. And that was from the hidden treasures, and Hashem didn't want to give it to him, and he went in all in with one-on-one with Kucha, and he said, Hashem, you got to give it to them. They're not going to last. Your people are not going to last. Wow. You got to give them the Zohar. And he's no, those are the secrets for the end of days. He's wait, there's going to be no end of days. They're not going to be end of days. He didn't just get the permission to go 17 years into a cave and then go back and visit. So Rabbi Shimon really went in all, and he got it all, and then he passed. And later on we have the Ramchal who brought down the next level, and we have Rabbi Nachman and the Baal Shem Tov. Like, it keeps renewing itself. It was all there before. It just keeps coming down in levels. And to connect that to Yeshua ben Nun, Kedoshim to you, Yeshua is a fascinating character in Tanakh. He gets passed down the mateh, and that's also a concept we're going to learn. The mateh was the staff, is that what you say? The staff that was given to him by Moshe, and we know that the story of the staff goes way back to Adam HaRishon, Noach. There's a bunch of holy ones that had zchut, I think Yehuda. So like I said before, as if when Yosef gets thrown in the pit, and imagine like that's also could be a parable to our story. The staff isn't just a physical stick that he gave him. Like I used to think like, oh, it's like to like help him walk in the desert. Okay. It represents Todah, it represents consciousness. It's like I'm passing you like a chip, and I downloaded here like Excel power to like how to build a house. I just gave you like it's like a it's like I would say like a chip with like I downloaded here some information about a science project. So when Moshe gave the staff to Yehoshuah, he's giving him information. That's the staff. And then it went from there to Rabbi Shimon into later and later. And today, there is no Rabbi Shimon. There is no Baba Sali, there's no Rav Kanievsky, there's no like, Mini Shalanu, Anachnu. Now, we each say, okay, but I went to yeshiva, and my menahelet was horrible, and Mora Tzipi was terrible, and the principal kicked me out, and I had ADHD. My parents didn't diagnose me. It's the 80s. We all have a story why the principal or basically, I grew up in public school, or I didn't know I was Jewish, or I converted. We each have a story of we don't know enough information. And a lot of years we're like blaming them. And I say, we got to the point, Baruch Hashem, if we have all this technology, then Hashem wants us to use it. It's ironic that the Apple phone has the apple. It's like, so I always say to people, it's a chaim or it's a dat, and there's nothing wrong with it's a dat. It depends when you use it for. Right. It's a dat is the tree of knowledge. No problem. Have knowledge. What do you want it for? Your ego? Because that's not life. You want it for life. So when I say that in each parsha, if we find ourselves in it, that's taking the dat of the Torah, that's a dat, and making it a chaim, living it. And then you start seeing like, if you really, it takes time, it's like a muscle. It's like you don't just go to the gym and 3 times that I go, I look like J-Lo. La ma pitom, like go sweat every day. And once you become a J-Lo, la avdil in her body, whatever it is, the eczema, you have to maintain it. Yeah. That is learning Torah, that is prayer, that's anything you do, whether it's about religion or not. And so rediscovering the Torah with that knowledge of using every single thing as a metaphor. The Be'er, the well, where there's always a story about shidduchim happening there. With Yitzchak and Rivka at the well. It's like lahavdil, like today, it's like, okay, we're going to the mall, to the coffee shop, to have a business talk, to have a meeting, to have a shidduch date. It's a place of community. It's a place of meeting. It's energy. It's not. It's a place of communication. It's also something significant more than just of what a well is. This is really like an introduction to how we're going to be able to flow into whatever it is that we're learning to, because we have to constantly remember that everything has a significance to it. And so Rabbi Shimon says the last generation before Mashiach is the greatest generation in the world. They're the real warriors. They're the ones that really had the guts to go and listen. It takes a lot. Like Rabbi Shimon says, even if you don't understand, just start reading my Torah. It takes a lot of humility to say, okay, I'm going to open up that kind of book and say it, even understand a word or speak it. And according to him, he's saying that the tzaddik says just by saying it, we're helping him finishing up. It's like, what are you saying? Like, I don't deserve it. I barely know the parshas by heart. I don't know all the stories. That takes humility. That's being a tzaddik. Being a tzaddik is not knowing the whole Gemara by heart. Being a tzaddik is being a Rabbi Akiva at age 40 going, okay, I had a great time. I'm going to close my Facebook and my Instagram, all my followers. I have my business degree. I have my accounting. I have my zeh. I want to learn that Hebrew at age 40, and I'm going to sign up in Ulpan with the Aleph Bet and like that. That's humility. That's humility. I last night was reviewing what I was going to teach, which I haven't even gotten to a lot of it. And I learned something marvelous about Rabbi Akiva. And I was like, oh my God, I'm even embarrassed to say like what it was. I can't believe I missed that. I was just like, I'm a little bit confused with the calendar of today. So for BC and AC and DC and all that, like between Bet HaMikdash Rishon and Sheni, like I didn't realize Rabbi Akiva was at the end of Beis HaMikdash Sheni. Like I was like, okay, I thought it was like later, but that makes sense. And like, how did I miss that? Because I missed it, because I only started learning again a few years ago, and it's okay. And that's part of the Gilui that the Baal HaTanya said. Mm-hmm. And divinity, being divine, being God-like, is letting yourself having moods also and being human, not let it control you, but knowing that we're human. Because Hashem also has moods. How do we know? The moon is empty, the moon is full, there's a wind, there is sunshine. That's Hashem's mood. That's Hashem talking to us. So when Hashem says, do not worship a pesel, a statue, what's a statue? A statue is always perfect. It's staying still and zeh. What do we try to do as good Yidden?
Oh my God.
We try to be statues. Be perfect. And in today's society, these girls are getting married young, supporting the husbands. We all have to look perfect. And there's nothing that I love more than the Hasidic gear, the Williamsburg ladies. I don't know how you guys do it. They are perfect. They just, which is a beautiful thing to be regal and royal and modest. But we got this obsession that we have to be almost perfect. Almost perfect. That's why we usually have in the house, in the Zecher Bet HaMikdash, there is no perfect. There's no perfect, but dafka. And I always will, like I say, like when I do things, even with my art, I'm like, yeah, things are not supposed to be perfect. It really is my lack of like being able to concentrate and make things perfect, my ADHD. But really, it's a real thing. It really, really, really is a real thing. And we worship that. Yet we're telling everybody else, you're worshiping idols. Oh, you're worshiping this and you're worshiping your cars. No, we're worshiping the ones that are trying to be the learning Torah, the perfect tzaddik.
Yeah.
We're worshiping the concept of a statue.
Yeah.
Hashem does not want you to be a statue. Having a matzav ruach, a mood, is acknowledging that I'm human and I have talents. I could be God-like for like 5 minutes. But I have moods. Matzav is a situation. A situation isn't permanent. Ruach is wind. So when we're in a matzav, in a situation, in a mood, remember, matzav isn't permanent, and ruach is a wind, comes and goes. Sometimes we stick there a little bit too long, like I like it sometimes. And when I'm going through something and I get all emotionally, like, I'm like, okay, how long do you want the ceremony? 3 minutes, 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, like 10 days. Like, how long do we need the drama for? So they're real. But it's also a story. Mm-hmm. It's also a story. Because just like when we received the Torah the first time, we all saw Hashem eye to eye, the same voice. We fainted. It was too overwhelming. The light was so strong. We got up, we had 70 versions. Pete told me we have 70 versions because everyone had a different kind of experience in Mitzrayim. Oh. Some people had easier...
At Sinai?
Yeah. The Sinai, the first time, round one,
Yeah.
And we faint, we come back, and now all of a sudden we have 70 faces to the Torah. What is this 70 faces? Hashem has 70 names. There's 70 ways of love. The other day I was talking to Eliza, and I was telling her, no, I want to write Ahava on my flyer. And something about capital, I don't know how the capitals and the grammars work, because I'm Israeli. And I regardless, even in Hebrew, I don't know. Grammars.
I said you don't have to capitalize it.
Yeah, you don't have to I'm like, no, I want to capitalize. It's Hashem's name. She's like, Ahava? I'm like, Ahava is one of Hashem's names. Ahava. Aleph, Hey, Vav, Ahava. Love.
I didn't know that.
Love. Hashem does not have fear in his name. Hashem has love. And it's very important to know that. Hashem's other name is Shalom, peace. So, many times we come to serve him out of fear because we're scared to get in trouble in school and suspended and the report cards. And I vote that on report cards they should not have a grade for davening, for prayer. Like, how can you, you could, grade me on my math test, but how can you grade someone on their prayer? You can write their midos, if they're late to school, or they're, consistent and stable and, resilient, but to grade someone on tefillah?
Oh, maybe if they should,
If they're, so, I always say, let's not blame, let's just be the change. Just be the change, just be the change. You want peace? Be peace. Be peace. And, sometimes I forget, because I skip around. I'm like, I was talking about school and relearning everything, and Ahava and Shalom. Those are Hashem's names. I also recently learned that in the last maybe 2 years, 3 years. And I remember a few years ago I wrote a post. I started a kuppah. I had a big miracle by Rabbi Meir Balanes. And I had this whole amazing vision dream. And I was like, Bezat Hashem, one day I want to start writing a Sefer Torah for Rabbi Meir. And then it came whatever, and I made a small little envelope and I called it Torah Chadasha, Torah Ta'ava. I think I wrote this post 3 years ago about Torah Ta'ava. And there really is such a concept apparently. Just like we got the Torah from Sinai, and then it had to be written again, and then it had to be explained by Rabbi Shimon, and then each time it's a fight for 17 years in the cave, 3,000 years, 400 years, every 300 years. We're in the eighth, we're at the end. We're in the 6,000, we're going into Shabbos. I'm 8th year, 7th year, 6,000. It's because time has overlapped. And that's one of the things about the book of prophets, and it's important to learn. Because what I've learned is that with the prophets is that they experience time very differently than we do. In Hebrew, you read from right to left. In English, you read left to right. We see time going 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock p.m., 3, in Israel, 14, 15, 16. The clock moves forward. For many of the prophets, the clocks were going the other way. And that's what... It's they experience time and clocks the other way, reversed. That's why a lot of the prophets always looked drunk and fainting. And Hannah, which is the prophet, the mother of Shmuel and Navi, what did they say about her? Because she was talking to herself. She's the first one, right, who had the guts to be all right, I'm talking to Hashem loud and clear, and let them say I'm drunk, I don't care. Yeah. And they said Shikora, and then said, no, she wasn't Shikora, she was Kshera. And then there's many prophets who have these stories where they look crazy and no one gets them. Yecheskel had a very interesting career. Half the year he's a prophet, going on journeys, talking to trees, hugging stones, disappearing. He had a wife, he didn't show up, didn't WhatsApp her, seeing things, saying unbelievable things, chariots, and things are flying. And then the other half of the time, he's the professor teaching the Quran, I think, in the Levim at the time, Torah. And so, it's he has, halftime actor and halftime this, and it's confusing. Esther Amalka, married to her uncle Mordechai, hanging out with him in the courtyard, and then he's, teaching her, he's nursing her, how to be a queen. And if you understand what that means, you understand what that means. We're big kids now. And then she's married to Achashverosh. So you're telling me there's a queen, it's let's say, God forbid, and she's Esther, and she's married to a Biden, and she's going to sleep with him and have a son who's going to build Beit HaMikdash just to save the Jewish people? Whoa, Sarah, you can't say that. No, I could say, I'm telling you guys, it's that. Imagine the holy Netflix of back then to today, and they say history repeats itself, and in every generation there's a Moshe Rabbeinu and Esther, v'kazeh. Like that. That sounds a little weird. But that's what it was like, and even more. Because Achashverosh was 127 countries ruling, and
Right.
so she just did a whole HBO Lahavdil scandal show going on over here, where half the time she's married to Mordechai, her uncle, and that's a hard life. Now I understand why she had to take 3 months break between every meeting. Like, you have to go home and meditate and clean off yourself and spy yourself and then prepare yourself. I'm going to see Haman. How should I look? How should I practice? You have to go into the role of what the tzaddikim say, that it wasn't really Esther. She went in and the shade took in. Okay, it doesn't matter. She still had to do the physical work of showing up and saying, okay, Esther's leaving and now the shade's coming in. That's a transition she has to have with her neshama. You don't just get that. Tamar, who slept with her father-in-law, dressed up as a prostitute because she had a prophecy that she's going to bring Mashiach. Okay, guys, so it's basically there's a girl living in somewhere in Yerushalayim, okay? And she decides that she has prophecy of some sort, and she's going to have to do certain things because Mashiach is going to come from her. That's going to sound like, okay, you need to check into a mental home sister. There is some meds that we can give you, and you're definitely hallucinating. That's being a tzaddik. That's being Kiddushim to you. Humble yourself to agree to act like a prostitute and conceive what one day will bring Mashiach. And shutting up about it and be b'sheket about it. And David HaMelech's mother is the same story. Her name is Nitzevet. Nitzevet. Lityatzev. Lityatzev is to stand still. Parashat Nitzavim. It's standing still. What does that mean? Deeper. It's standing still in situations in our life and being b'sheket with the complete faith that you know, that he knows, that you know, that he knows, that you know, that everything's going to work out. David HaMelech's mama, Nitzevet, also dressed up like a story. There was a story where her husband, her maid came and said, listen, your husband's planning to go be with a thing tonight, and she went and she switched with her. Also a Rachalea story. There's a lot of switching all the time with the it's a kind of like a repeat, but they always tweak it up. And they think that I anything Hollywood is original. It all came from the Torah. Nothing's more original than the Torah. And she sleeps with Ishai, and she gets pregnant. And Ishai thinks that his wife's cheating on him, and he thinks that David is a mamzer for many years. He had many sons, and then there's Shmuel Navi, back to Chana, who looked like she was drunk, but she was really kosher. And Shmuel Navi had the eyes to see who David HaMelech is, and he goes and tells David's father, you have a son, I want to make him a melech, we all kind of know the story. And he brings out his son A says no, this is not him. And then he brings out the Gingy, the little redhead who looks like a hippie boy, who does not look like he would be a king. He definitely does not have his suit, his tie on. It's definitely not ironed. David HaMelech's hair was not perfect. His face was not perfectly curled either. He probably was a little wild and he just fought war. He had scars. He had wounds. He loved dancing in the field. He liked doing somersaults. That means he wasn't your sparkling kind of guy. That's more Shlomo Melech, who was born into royalty.
Yeah.
And David's story is that when he was revealed, all of a sudden, Nitzevet, his mom, was like, that's right. I think he was 28 years old. So for 28 years, she had to be silent. Nitzevet. She was Nitzevet. She was quiet. She was still. She knew that David was going to be a king probably at the end. She had the eyes to see. Mize, what's the pasuk? Mize shoret hanolad. Mize, Eze hacham shoret hanolad. Which means, who is the wise one to see the newborn? No, what's so hard, genius about it? You see a baby, they're all gorgeous. They all smell like baby Johnson. They all smell like they're all cute. They're all yummy. They're all fuzzy. What's the geniusity to say I see the beauty in the newborn? It's to see their potential. It's to see your baby when they're born and knowing this one's going to be great in this and this one's going to be great in this. And 6 years into their, 10 years into, you met me now, to see, she had a rebirth. She just changed. To see their potential, and Nolad, to see their potential. And Itzevet saw that about David. She's his mom. She's the mother of the king. So these prophets that did these daring things, it's like, how dare they? Because that's being a humble. Saying, okay, Hashem, you want me to do this ridiculous, embarrassing act that's like a little dangerous and get us in trouble, and the name of the shidduchim, what will the neighbors say? And what did the neighbors say? The neighbors had a lot to say about Naomi and Ruth and Boaz. The neighbors had a lot to say about a lot of things. The neighbors are going to also have a lot to say about Osnat, who was born from the story of Dinah and Shechem, the first rape victim. And she's the first, yes, and she was sent to Egypt. And that's when Yosef went down. So, but really when we learn the story deeper, this was all a prerequisite set up because they knew Yosef had to go down, so she chose to be born in that way, to go down and wait for him.
I have a quick. Sorry, just let me know. She wasn't daughter of
But so she was raised in the house of Potiphar, of Paro. Osnat was the daughter of Dinah. Dinah is the daughter of Yaakov, who was raped by Shechem. Come on, not Yochevet's not. We're not up to Yochevet yet. We spoke about Potiphar. The house of Potiphar, that's where she was raised. And really that story is very, very deep because Dinah, they say, it's a difficult story because they say Dinah played with the window shades or something. She almost initiated part of it because she had a nevuah. It's another parsha. I'm really through many, many parshot, but she saw something in him in the future and she rushed it. She saw that basically Osnat had to be born. Osnat had to be born so she can go to Mitzrayim to wait for Yosef.
Wow.
So they can have, who did they have?
Menashe and Ephraim.
Menashe and Ephraim. And Menashe and Ephraim are also part of the tribes, which is a huge discussion. Yeah. And we're going to also be discussing a lot about the tribes in these years that no one likes to talk about, the 10 tribes that got lost. Ephraim and Menashe are a big secret. There's Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David, and there's Mashiach ben Ephraim. Yeah. So this was a pre-setup. So she had the prophecy. She maybe not necessarily understood all of it. It was not okay what he did, but she basically took the bite. It's like a chalimenu. She's like, okay, yalla. I'll take it for the family. How do they say it in English?
Wow, really?
I'll take it down for the.
I'll take the bullet.
I'll take the bullet. Yeah, I'll take. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Where are you bringing them? Where are you bringing the Ben Menashe?
Moshe ben Ephraim, that's a whole shear. I'm just starting to learn a lot more about it recently. That's a whole shear. By the way, just Dina is a whole shear, Noach's a whole shear, getting drunk is a whole shear. Just the tribes. I'm just literally just like tapping into a lot of different concepts. Yeshua? So we're getting a request. Thank you. It's one of my favorite topics. And this is exactly it. Because Hashem is showing us that every single story that's written in the Chumash, there's a reason for it. And it doesn't matter how you were born, what were you born to, and what your story is. You are in charge of your life, and you can rewrite the story. Even if you were the biggest whore in the world, chas v'shalom, woo! There's a lot of prostitution stories going on tonight. But it's Yeshua ben Nun's Yortzeit, and his wife was Rechav. And in the Torah it says that she was a zunah. And then the tzaddikim just, for like first grade, third grade, to make it appropriate, they say she wasn't really a prostitute. She was hustling and bustling for parnasa. So she was selling milk and honey. And I'm like, okay, guys, we're all grown up now, and we're big kids. And that's wild stuff. the 40 years that we were in the desert, she was mamash, like, she was a very, very, like, there's like, she was like a level, like the greatest ones would come to her. She was like expensive, she was good.
She was the man.
She was mashu, she was miuchedet. She's the one that was, what?
Ma'am.
What'd she say?
Sam, I just worked out and everything, sorry.
I'm too weak for this.
I'm not even against him, but I mean, it just worked in the story.
Which one? Okay, tell me later. Anyway, so she's the one with the spies. That's the story with the spies. Okay. And that's part of what's going on here with all the spices that I have and all the for the besamim. The story of Yehosha. What's great about him is that he had really two major careers. Usually you get like one big role, like Avram Avinu. He has a lot of stories, a lot of drama, a lot of mystery. He wrote books. He did a lot. But he's Avram Avinu, Yosef HaTzadik, Shimshon HaGibor. Yeshua was two. He was the servant of Moshe Rabbeinu. He was Mesharet Oto. And then Moshe passed the matet to him, and he brought us into Israel. Meaning, they were both leaders, Moshe and Yeshua, but Moshe had a different kind of leadership to do. He had to take a nation out of a situation. He had to convince us that there's something there. He had to get us out of a situation. He got us out of Mitzrayim. He brought us to Har Sinai. And then we get the Torah. He passes. Yeshua is a different kind of thing. He has to take us into the land. He has to build Amidar, Arnona, Kupat Cholim, Eged, Gichon, wars. He had the whole story with
Tons of wars.
lots of situations, and he had a pretty good reputation. So basically, everything in the Torah has its front and its back. Moshe Rabbeinu is the front, Yeshua is the back, and it's the same concept as Eliza playing the piano. A violin is no good without a violinist. A violinist is no good without a violin. Like zoto davar, a human might look more than a piece of wood, but the wood has no purpose without the person going ta 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 ta. It gives it life. Now, without that piece of wood, the person wouldn't. So it's zoto davar. It's like the klipa of the fruit. One is no less than the other. And Moshe Rabbeinu would not be able to do what he did or get where he was without a Yehosha, and vice versa. So Yehosha is the greatest leader. After the greatest leader, which kind of makes you greater than the greatest. Because being greatest after the greatest, it's really hard. And he had a pretty good record. Mm-hmm. And to bring a traumatized ניסן with PTSD, non-stopping complaining, Miriam dies.
Oh, no.
And then Aaron and Moshe Rabbeinu are sitting Shiva, and the whole nation comes and they're like, oh, finally they're coming to pay us a Shiva call. As a Shiva call, they're coming to complain that there's no water, they're hungry, they're starving, there's no iCloud. They're like,
No iCloud.
like seriously, guys, like a little derech eretz? No, we're like like we're always, on. It's not easy to bring us into Israel, and that was Yeshua. And we all know behind a great man, there's a greater woman, and he married the queen. He married Rachav, and she had two things that were known about. She was one of the most beautiful ladies, like Abigail, Esther, and I forgot which one. Other one with the Abigail, or
I need like a chart, a flow chart.
like the Oscar nominee for the four most beautiful ladies. Sarah, right? And she won another Oscar for being a righteous convert, Rachav. And her and Yehosha ben Nun, I read that they had 8 kids. Somewhere I read they had 10 kids. All were prophets. I even wrote their names down. They had a Baruch, a Saraya, and Moriah. And there's a controversy, machloket, whether Huldah Neviah was their daughter or granddaughter.
Wow.
And Chizkiah, like that's their Babi and Zaida. So the Babi of the most amazing prophet who has a book was a prostitute. Why is Hashem telling us? Why is he making such a big deal? Showing you Yeshua ben Nun who is a tzaddik, who's like everything. He's righteous, kadoshim, like with the strimal and the payas that we think, like kadosh, like learning the whole Torah by heart. And he's a great leader. He's a politician, business, warrior, with the sword and gladiator, muscles, like the whole thing. And he married someone off the streets. Okay, like imagine I'm telling you like, and I specifically use Rav Kanievsky. He's tzaddik, zchutei gan alenu. Why? Because he passed away on Purim, in his blessed memory in Purim, and he's such a like mechubad, you know. When his wife passed away, he didn't get remarried. Like Baba Sai got married right away. The tzaddikim married, and it's like let's say like they say like, oh yeah, Mazel Tov, the Rav Kanievsky got married, engaged, Mazel Tov to a Julia Roberts. Lahavdil. People, Shonda Sari, embarrassing. Don't ever say these words. I'm like, Avalama, Yeshua married Rachav. She was more than a Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
So why is it horrible if I say that like a Rav Kanievsky would? It's a shanda because our brain cannot understand. It's like, oh my God, Chas v'Shalom. He deserves to be with a tzaddikah. It was someone who kept Shabbos her whole life. Yeshua took someone literally off the streets. And they have 8 prophets. So Hashem is showing you not only you can change your story, I'm going to surprise you and show you what can come out of you.
Wow.
Not PTS kids, not kids off the derech. How did you do it? How did you do it? And I'll never forget my Rebbitzin many years ago, Rebbitzin Weinberger. She should have health. Once someone said to her something about her children, like off the derech. She's like, my kids are not off the derech. I just made my derech very wide.
Wow.
Those were some of the smartest words, and that changed my life. And I'm going to send that shout out to you. She said, my kids, I don't feel like my kids are off the derech. My derech is very wide. And that was Avraham Avinu. His derech was wide. Who am I to throw my child out of home that Hashem gave me, a child that He gave me? There's a way to do it, and that's what this is all about. Tapping into these stories. I love scandal stories. Like they're just the best.
Is all scandal.
Yeah, right.
I'm like the Jews. We're the only ones that tell our losses, like our personal losses. Like I do like Nachiyomi like 10 minutes a day, just mushroom, like simple. Mm-hmm. And it's like I'm like, oh, it's like. Somebody raped somebody's wife, Shmuel.
Let me tell you, the Tanakh is the most unbelievable stories.
We air everything.
Like we air, but that's part of the humility because you know if you think about, for me, like I think about like colonizer stories. You always write in you're the best, but the Jewish people, our people, what makes us great is that we're not above mistakes,
right?
And that's part of the journey, and it's so many.
That's exactly it. There is no mistake. And
it's like it is juicy. I'm like, I want to do a hip hop Bible, baby, because I'm like, that's
right, guys. We have Chaya in the house. She's gonna work on the hip hop Bible.
Like, how are you gonna have a whole man that has 4,
we did not have a virgin birth,
and he lined up by who? But he lines them up by who he loves the most. But it's like, that's favoritism. Because favoritism is, and that's how Hashem, the main wife you love, she was over there stealing the gods, and she ain't even buried in it. Come on now. There is a lesson from Hashem that is about, because one thing, and I'm telling you as a person that converted, well, I love to say it twice, Hashem.
Hi, can I show you? Can I?
The stranger.
Hi, is it okay if I?
Oh, of course. He respects and loves the stranger, and he does not play with humility. And the minute you take it here, Hashem will say, that's cute. Yeah. Bring it down, boo-boo. Yeah. So I think that, is for everything, it's something to be said about who we are as Jewish people, is that, it transcends what you think you know. And I love that about us so much, is we just have to, we tell our dirty as well, like, somebody raped the man raped his daddy's wives, and then David Amelech said, I'm this son. Who's doing that? Because most people are not telling their stories in full swing, but we Jewish, because there's a reason why we tell our dirt as well as our good, because even our dirt has a space and our good has a space.
Yes.
And I think that's what's so magical about the Jewish people.
Yes.
I'm Israel.
Yeah.
I always tell my kids there's one rule about me.
Get into it, sis.
I said, don't ever lie to me. I don't care if it's the ugly truth. It's better than the pretty. Lo akhpat li. They know one thing about me. I'm like, oh my God, do not lie to me. Do not tell me you stole or you this, do that.
For real.
And also, if you ever get drunk, your friends are drunk, you're stuck, I don't care what time it is, 3, 4 a.m. I promise I won't yell at you. I'll actually buy donuts and cigarettes, and I'll even take you to the movies. Like, do not. Those are 2 rules about my. There's something about emet mit eretz titzmach. Emet.
So
By
they-
the way, so emet is another thing I wanted to discuss. I actually even have a whole shir that I want to discuss about emet.
Oh.
And this is my sign. Emet is in the name of Avraham Avinu's mother. I'm Talai. Emet li. Her name is here. That's your grandma. My grandma.
You want to have a okay, tell us school.
I'm Talai. Emet li. Emet mi eretz titzmach. Emet mi eretz titzmach. They say her name 17 times in a whisper. Anytime you have a court, lawyers, hospitals, police, כאלו דברים. I'm Talai Bakarnavos 7 times. She's your new bestie. Yes.
17, no?
17. You sign.
17, right, yeah, it's 17.
Okay, I didn't know this.
Yes, she is the grandma of all of us. You know, like when you're like in the family when there's like issues, you're like, wait till I tell like Daddy, wait till I tell Grandma what you just did. You know, like you always like, don't worry. And then it's always like with the grandparents, it's like they always like sneak you in the ice cream, or it's like with the grandparents you make fun of the parents, like tell Grandma the truth. Like it's a whole scandal by the grandma too. Somehow she knows how to like bribe the grandchildren. She is the woman of the hour, really, really, really. Why? Because through her we had Ishmael, Edom, Kulam Misham, like all what we call troublemakers. They're her grandkids. So you know when like you go to like a family like Shabbaton, like a bar mitzvah getaway, and all the cousins are there and the grandparents from both sides, and by the end there's like war. This family fought with this one. Who do you go to? The grandma with the cane. And you go tell her, and you're like, listen, Grandma, these grandkids, your grandchildren, cousin B, cousin C, they hurt me, they bothered me, they bullied me. And she goes, don't worry, I'll take care of that cousin. I'll take care of that grandchild. Grandchild, get over here, Maishaleh. David, Ishmael, you get over here, Hamas. They're all her grandkids.
That's Amalek, though.
That's Amalek. It's
What do you
all
do,
her
son? I can't
grandkids, and they all came from
myself
Avraham
in the bed.
Avinu.
I can't.
And we're going to discuss that too. So Emet, it's all about Emet.
Wow.
Emet meretz titzmach. When we're ready to admit the truth,
Where's
and
she
that
do
was,
this?
I think she went out with her son.
Go ahead, baby.
When we're ready, you said the smartest thing before. When we're ready to accept that the piyul
Yeah.
is part of the fruit, and there is no bad, there is no mistakes. It's all echad. That's when our own personal Mashiach will come into our lives, inside our bodies.
Wow.
Because when you can look in the mirror and say, okay, listen, Hashem, I'm extremely talented. I can make food amazing. I'm really bad with Excel, with like calling like the phone company. Not that I have a problem calling the phone. Those things make me nervous. But I'm really good with these things. I'm just admitting it. Just admit it. I am doing chesed tonight. I'm opening up my home. Yes, it's for you guys. Really, guys, it's all for me. It's all about me. It's so I can go to sleep tonight saying, I opened up my home, I had brachos, angels came to mass. It's more than that. It's I can go home and go back to sleep tonight and say, I actually feel like I did something good. I actually feel like I did a purpose. I need to make myself feel better about my life. I want to feel like I changed someone's life today. I want to go to Shemaim and say, Hashem, wasn't I a rock star today? I'm the cutest little daughter in the world. 100% for me. Only then I can say, Achshavatem, only for you. Now, why? Because it's a complete life. I say, oh, this is for Klal Yisrael. No, I'm getting everything out of this. I'm you know, so when we're ready to admit to Hashem, I want to be a great teacher, a great dancer, whether it be a religious thing or not. Oh yeah, lashpia laolam. No. It's I can feel good about myself. I want to know I'm the best mom and I'm a great. We're not the best. Like.
And you're saying that humbleness.
Just admit it, and then you get it. Like, yeah, I want all that money to feel good about myself. Yeah, so I could be. So at this point in my life, yeah, I need the money so I could feel like I was successful. Oh, money makes you successful. And then no, but to each their own. At this point for me, I don't need to prove myself. Oh, are you doing it to prove it? Did you become religious to prove to your parents like I'm better against the principle? Or did you become not religious because of the principle? So really you're not being you. You're doing it because of somebody heard you, did you, touched you, blah. So you're doing it to impress? At first when I became so like more religious, it was to impress my parents. I was a shovava, I gave them a hard time. I wanted to be a good girl now. So I loved Hashem, I loved spirituality, but I also did it because I wanted to impress them. Just admit that. Hashem's like, dude, I know. Wow. I know you're doing it to impress them. You think I don't know? I created that. Just say, hi, Hashem. I'm doing it for the asker. I'm doing it for the followers. Okay? I'm doing it for the followers. Yeah, because I want to feel like I'm like popular. Just admit it. Wake up in the morning. Our body is right away having an argument with itself. Because we just came from Shemaim. We want to be in heaven. But now we're stuck back in our body. It hurts. We have to wash, we have to this, we have to grab. Like right away, we have to pay the bills. Like we're right away with the suffering and anxiety. Just say, hi, good morning, suffering. What are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing, Sevel? As soon as you say good morning to like the suffering is not interested in you anymore. They go to someone else. As soon as you're like, hey, suffering, hi, we're besties now. Let's suffering, why should you be alone? Let's hang out together. If already I'm suffering, be with me, I'll be with you. And as soon as I say that, it's like, it goes. It's not going to go away. Not having to go to the bathroom and not having to clean the toilets and not having to pick our nose sometimes and like the most uncomfortable things. We just want to be able to go. Our body just wants to fly, but Hashem's like, no. You got to honor your body like it's a Sefer Torah. And all the years we heard not to be physical and not to put too much emphasis on our goof. And that's where we got confused. Because now we're going back to the healing and the natural and the zeh. And so now we're connecting the ruchniut and the gashmiut together, and we have to. And that's exactly also part of this, and I'm going to wrap it up, that we have to bring together the malchut of David and Shlomo together, the malchut of the body and the neshama. You know, we think being religious is always just being in Torah, and sports is being religious. Museum is religious. Going in the ocean and swimming, that's one of the most gifts you can give Hashem in the world. That's like some people meet Hashem. That's some people's synagogue is swimming. That's their Shabbos. That's their prayer. That my brother-in-law loves to surf. It's like that's my bet knesset. That's where I meet Hashem. Wow. Yeah, he doesn't keep Shabbos up as we know.
Tradition.
But he keeps Shabbos when he goes on Shabbos to the ocean.
He gets you aligned.
He's like, that's Knesset Shili. And I'm like, oh wow, that's special. And then he comes and honors my family, my father, and he hears the Kiddush and v'zev, you know. That's his peace.
Yeah.
How can I take that away from him because I'm telling him he can't put the blech on? No, I cannot judge that. I could just respect other people's ways and honor my ways that I understand them and know that it's much bigger than what it seems to be.
If I say that, then I can be conservative.
I'm not conservative. I keep Shabbat like I don't.
I'm saying like, I think that's a big point. It's okay. I'm saying like I think it's a big point of, especially if you're you're teaching. So I think it's a big point that we can not judge. But if I'm saying that's okay, then I'm.
No, I'm not saying it's. I'm not saying it's a Shabbat. I'm not saying go out of your way. I'm saying like maybe I didn't say it right. I'm saying like that's okay for him. Like I can't take that piece away. Listen, it's better. Listen, Hashem. If I was Hashem, and my name is peace and love, Shalom ve'ava, and there's a family in Yerushalayim keeping Shabbos, and all they do is argue with the Shtreimel and V'zev. You can't blame her. She's pregnant. She's nauseous. The bills or whatever it is. And there's a couple that's in their home watching TV, and they made kiddush. But the TV's on, I'd rather hang out with them. They're not arguing. That's where the Shekhinah rests. I'm not saying it's okay to go. I'm not.
Nobody keeps all the commandments. She's just saying there's different things that people do.
Like we're not like.
I'm not.
Hashem is not saying, oh, it's okay if you only keep 601. I mean,
No.
We need to do our best to keep all of them.
All of them, yeah.
First of all,
right.
Wait a minute. Let me just finish. I think it's just important to be careful to say. That's where he is right now.
That's where he's holding now, yeah.
to put a tattoo or
No.
I
I was making the point more.
No, like it's okay, and I think, and if I can just say one more thing, I think it's important to be really careful. Like, no, we can't compare that person that's arguing with his wife, but maybe Hashem really still, but they're keeping Shabbos, and these other people, they're showing that they're not keeping Shabbos. I think that's something really like. I mean,
I said if I was Hashem.
Okay, if you're Hashem. Okay.
I said if I was Hashem, I would want to hang out more in the house. That's like keeping the TV on.
But
But there's peace and love, and they made Kiddush and they're trying. Opposed to with like the fighting.
Okay, so now you say they're trying.
Hashem
Before you
meets
say
us where we are.
Hashem meets us where we are. Well, you want to
Right.
like, you say like, oh, we're just doing this cute thing, but Hashem's always pushing us, and we
To be bad, of
pushing
course.
us.
Of course.
So-
It doesn't mean he doesn't love the couple less.
But
It doesn't mean that they're not important. Chas v'shalom. I'm just saying it's different people holding in different places. I'm all about Shabbos and I'm all about all of that. Chas v'shalom, I didn't mean it that way.
Okay, just like, it sounded like it was important.
No, I was trying to make the point on the ocean. That when a person goes in the ocean and enjoys it, and he has pleasure from it, he's giving Hashem pleasure.
Look,
It's like a mother who's nursing. She wants to nurse more than the baby wants to nurse, and that's Hashem. He constantly has Shefa coming down to us. If the ocean, so that's what I was trying to say, that the peace and the love is, and Torah isn't just black and white. It's important. The Torah, halacha, all of it, lashon hara, all of it, the whole thing. Our problem is that we became a little bit too religious. We became more religious than religion. We became more religious than Hashem. We had a little opinions out of fear from the Holocaust. Blah, blah, blah. Torat Hashem Temima, Torat Moshe Emet. That's what we're saying. So I just want to wrap it up because I want to close the video and then we can continue schmoozing. I just want to make a point that this is called the Shlom Zion Center because it's named after the Peace of Zion. Shlom Zion is Peace of Zion. I have an introductory video that I uploaded already of discussing it a little bit more, and we'll discuss it more later. She was also a queen at the Bet HaMikdash HaSheni, and she was amazing. She did a lot of really powerful stuff. She was an advisor to her husband, and she helped bring the Sanhedrin together. And during her time, the wheat and everything was like very, very blessed. It was like as big as like golden olives, huge. So tzaddikim in the Sfarim blessed that the days of Mashiach should be like the days of Shlom Zion HaMelkah when she ruled.
Wow.
Yes, when she ruled. The tzaddikim said that B'zman Bet HaMikdash, when she ruled, in between, that's a period, meaning that B'zman Shel Mashiach, I got confused, that it should be as peaceful as the days of Shlom Zion. And so that's why I called it the Shlom Zion Center. My gallery, Shlom Zion. I have a charity called Shlom Zion. It was in memory of our grandparents. Shaka Lev Elia Malka Zion, it was initials, and Shlom Zion came together. And it's a street in the middle of the city, and it's a few blocks away from where I raised my kids. So growing up, I would take them there. It was before Mamila was built, and before, as the Waldorf was going up. And there's on the road, there's Shlom Zion HaMelkah, there's a bench, and we used to sit there, and I'd be like, kids, one day it's gonna be like this, and like, mamash, no one even walked down Mamila. Yeah. And it was, and later on I realized Shlom Zion. When I did my charity, when I named it Shlom Zion, I didn't know about the queen. Later I Googled it and I'm like, oh wow, there was a queen. And like, in the last few weeks I've been sitting down learning about her, and she was very, very fascinating. So that's the name of the center, in her memory and in the schus of the peace in Zion, which is ultimately what we want, the peace. Hashalom, not just peace, Hashalom. Because we all have different versions of peace and different versions of what yummy and tasteful is. And the last thing we're going to do is talk about, it connects with Yehושע and everything, and Mashiach, is that when they came into Yericho is Reach. It's one of the openings of Gan Eden. There's a few openings to Gan Eden. It's like imagining having a big house. So there's the front door, there's the side door, there's the garage, there's the underground door. There's like...
So it's a portal.
It's a portal, yeah. Yericho is one of the openings of Gan Eden, and it's all about the Geula because Reach, and we know that Mashiach is going to smell basically he's gonna sniff, were you a good one? Were you recent? Were you loyal? Were you real? Was it emet? If he smells one of sheker, he can. He's like, reach is one of the senses that creates time. It brings back memory. When you know, it's when you, they say that nose didn't smell during the sin. That's why the neshama comes out of our nose. It's
this nose did not smell during
yeah. Not chategel, yeah. You know, the apple and the tree. Yeah, and
it's interesting because there's the question is, was it the apple or was it the tree? The esrog, and the thing is, like, the esrog is like such a strong smell, and interesting that
yeah.
Now what you say,
yeah.
because it goes along.
It's a sword. There's different levels to it. So with that, this shir was dedicated in memory of Shalom Yona ben Natan. So when you say Leilu Nishma, someone, in memory of someone, you make a bracha, a regular hagafen shehakol, their neshama gets upgraded. But when you do a Leilu Nishmat,
can I just get that? I'm gonna put on my Instagram. Can I get you to say that?
You want me to say that again?
I'm sorry, I hate it. I hate to do it.
Okay. So
wait.
I dedicated this shir for Leilu Nishmat, someone, and anytime we do in memory of someone a bracha or dedication, a shahakol, a eitz, a dama, their neshama gets an upgrade. Besamim is the only blessing that I'll try to post it for you later and send it to you.
Yeah.
Is the only blessing that when you say for a soul that passed, their neshama gets elevated a lot more, not just one upgrade, over 10 upgrades. It's the highest thing because it's neshama to neshama, it's from the smell. So with that, with the secret of the besamim and Yericho and everything we learned tonight, with the piece of Tzion, it's the fastest way to activate certain things. It activates things. Like lighting a candle for a tzaddik activates. A bracha for Leilu Nishmat, someone, and in general, besamim. Very important to say besamim twice a day. We have to say 100 brachos a day. Start saying besamim twice a day. You walk in the street, see rosemary, stop, because you're doing, and while you're at it, just doing memory of it. It's for free. For free. The person gets an upgrade, you get a bracha, and that whole bush of trees just gets a tikkun.
Really?
Yeah. And if you could pick the rosemary and go home and cook with it, or to continue with it, give it life. Tchiat HaMetim. You gave Tchiat HaMetim to the rosemary, to whatever it was, to the neshama, to you, and the food. And it's chinam because there's rosemary growing all over Israel, not just the rosemary, whatever it is. So with that,
Rosemary.
Okay, I want to do it.
with that, this is in the excuse of that, and b'mara b'yameinu, baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei atzvei v'samim.
Amen.
I want to tell you something.
Reach nichoach eshet l'Adonai. That's the bracha achrona for besamim. And that's how I'm going to end the shir, guys. Love you. Thank you for joining if you stayed up this far. And I'm going to continue with the ladies. Bye.
Did you ever count the steps coming down here?